What do you think got you to 42 weeks?
His head. And I'll tell you exactly why. We would later find out his head was huge and was having a hard time even getting into the pelvis in the first place. His head just would not engage into the pelvis because it was so big. It couldn't figure out how to get in there. I'm Kayla Heeter, follower of Jesus, wife and mother of 6 children, Christian childbirth educator and doula, and your host of the Surrendered Birth Stories podcast, where we share God-centered birth stories, evidence-based birth education, and our pursuit of surrendering our birth plans to God. Let's get started. Hello, everyone. I am so excited to announce that I have officially given birth to our 6th sweet baby and am soaking up every newborn cuddle and snuggle and smell and smile and nursing session and everything that comes with the sweet newborn season. So during this time over the next several weeks, to give my husband and I a little bit of a break from working on the podcast each week, we are actually going to be replaying all of our birth stories, our personal, my husband and I's birth stories. So since we have now 6 children, for 5 weeks, we will replay each of our kids' birth story one by one, a blast from the past, or maybe you've never heard them before because you're a new listener. So that will give you sort of an idea of my journey when it came to birth. And then in the 6th week, we will release this sweet baby's birth story as the start of our new episodes beginning again. So I hope you all enjoy listening while we enjoy cuddling this sweet new baby. Well, welcome back to the podcast, Chris Heeter.
Hey, Rumi.
It's nice to have you back here. We are going to share our second birth story of our son Milo today.
Yeah, it's a whopper.
Yes, it's a whopper. That's a great way to describe this. So I want to start with getting pregnant. That was with Brinkley. It was this God ordained. He told us to have a baby. We were together one time and we got pregnant and it was this confirmation. It was this big thing. But for Milo, it was not like that. It was different. In between Brinkley and Milo, I had become a birth doula and I had started attending all of these births, and I was just very, very excited to do things differently this time around. So we were just like, let's have a baby. Of course, God would want us to have a baby because he says to be fruitful and to multiply and that children are a blessing. So I was very disappointed when we did not get pregnant the first month. It was Brinkley's birthday. I woke up on her 2nd birthday expecting to test and get a positive pregnancy test. And I woke up to my period, which was very disappointing. But we did not have to struggle like I know a lot of couples struggle with out there. So it only took a few more months, but we eventually did get pregnant. But it was a different experience finding out, because with Brinkley, I was in shock and I couldn't believe that it worked that fast. Even I remember when we saw the pregnancy test with Brinkley, I sat in the corner of our bathroom with a hand over my mouth saying, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, and couldn't move. But with Milo, I remember jumping up and down and screaming and getting excited and just praising. And we went out to dinner to celebrate and we told my mom. And do you remember all that?
I could be honest and say I don't remember all of that.
It's okay.
It's okay.
I remember for the
Paint
both
the picture.
of us.
Where did we go to dinner?
Elizabeth's Pizza.
Oh, yeah.
On Battleground in Greensboro. Because that was back when prices were cheaper and you got all this free bread and all the garlic oil. Mm.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all, it's so good.
Anyways, so we were pregnant. And this time...
We should start a food podcast.
No, absolutely not. This time, I wanted to do things differently. I had so much more education and training than I did the first time. I mean, the first time I knew nothing and kind of purposely knew nothing. I was afraid of birth and just did the standard American, eat what I want to, do what I want to, go to the hospital, get my epidural and have a baby. But this time I was like, no, I'm going to like exercise and do my stretches and eat my whole clean foods and no processed foods and, drink all my water and all the things, which lasted about 2 weeks before I started throwing up all day, every day. That was awful.
You poor thing.
It was awful. Well, and my 2-year-old started making fun of me. I would come downstairs in the morning, try and get her breakfast, and immediately have to throw open the back door and throw up. And so she started like being like, look, I'm like mama. And like bending over and pretending she was throwing up.
Oh,
do you remember that?
I do remember that. Yeah, she wasn't making fun of you, obviously.
Well, she was
mimicking
me, yeah.
It was really kind of, you look
my
back and
my mom videoed it.
It's pretty funny, yeah.
We also had to get rid of our cat. We had a cat for however many years at that point, and every time I would walk past the door to where the litter box was, I would throw up.
Oh, yeah.
Instantly.
Rightfully so.
And I would throw up in the garage because the garage door was next. So it wasn't like in a trash can or in a toilet or outside. It was just on the floor of the garage. And you had to clean it up like every day. So the cat got moved, rehoused with your parents, which they were very glad about. But it was a lot of throwing up. It was a long journey of throwing up. That's my least favorite part of pregnancy.
Yeah, it was definitely more so than when you were pregnant with Brinkley.
Yes, definitely more intense than the first time. And I think just having to, because I was home at that point, I wasn't teaching anymore because I used to teach first grade. So I was just with her all day, every day. And I was exhausting. She was 2 and running around and I was throwing up. So I really wanted to have a home birth this time. With all of my training and getting to see the different births over the last year or so, I was really looking forward to having a home birth. And honestly, I was really looking forward to having another girl. Like we both just assumed we would have another girl and both wanted another girl. And within about a week of each other, I found out that I was not going to have a home birth because of our financial situation at the time. We could not justify. We did not have the cash to pay out of pocket for the home birth. And with the insurance that we had at the time, if I went to the birth center in Statesville, Natural Beginnings, it would be fully covered. So it just didn't make sense to do it that way. And I think that was God's design, and I'll kind of explain that at the end. But I was very disappointed. And then 2 days later, we found out we were having a boy, and I was depressed. I was sad. I cried for days about the loss of the home birth and the fact that Brinkley wasn't going to have a sister. She was going to have a brother. And obviously we love Milo and are so glad that we have Milo. But at the time when you're pregnant and hormonal and emotional, it was just like a big amount of emotions and information to take in all at once. So then pregnancy got better. I felt better eventually, but I started getting really big. And I didn't have gestational diabetes. I was eating way better than I did with Brinkley. I was exercising. I was going on walks every morning. I was doing, all these stretches. I was going to the chiropractor, which I did not do my first time around. So it was like I was doing all the right things, and I was just getting so big. My belly was getting so big.
When did you notice it? About what time in the gestation?
Well, when your mom said, "Are you sure you're not having twins?"
Oh.
Do you remember that? But I got that question a lot. I was probably, he came in November. He was due in October. Let's make that clear. So this was probably August. And people are like, oh my gosh, you must be any moment now, any day. And I'm like, actually, I have a couple of months left, but thank you very much. Anyways.
Which is hard to hear.
It is hard to hear. It is never fun to hear that you are huge or you're about to pop or any of those things. Even if you're pregnant and those things are true, it's not fun to be told them. You know what I mean? Mm. Anyways.
Well, I think you look great.
Well, thank you.
Rock star.
Rock star. So Brinkley, our first came at 39 weeks, and I just assumed, like, oh, well, this baby is clearly bigger, and it's my second baby, so he's going to come even sooner. Surely he's going to come sooner. I'm bigger, and it's my second baby. Of course he's going to come sooner. So at 38 weeks, I really expected him to come that week. Just very naive of me. Extremely naive. But that
part of it is just not really having the experience of being pregnant with a boy and doing pregnancy the way that you were doing it as well.
Right. I was determined this time, like, I wasn't going to get my membrane swept. I wasn't going to do any sort of induction stuff besides, having sex or walking. Like, I wasn't going to do anything. I was determined to this was going to be all natural, and he was just going to come on his own. That's how it was going to be. Spoiler alert, I caved and did a lot of things to try and get him to come. But I mean, I was spending an hour with God every morning, begging him, pleading him, please let me have my baby today. Please don't let me be pregnant anymore. Like, just crying out to him every day for like an hour in the morning, just starting my day that way every single day. I vividly remember like going in that little guest room and sitting on the couch and just having my worship music playing and begging him. I also read that book during his pregnancy, Supernatural Childbirth. Do you remember that one?
Yeah.
And I was like praying the prayers over him and the declarations over him and the labor and the pregnancy, and just like I was going all in. I was like praying for like a 7 or 8 pounder because I knew that it's harder to push out a bigger baby. And since I was doing this naturally for the first time, I was like, yeah, a smaller baby would be nice to push out. And just, praying over like that I wouldn't feel all the pain, and that I just felt like I prayed circles and circles and circles around that labor. So then 38 weeks comes and goes very uneventfully. Well, then 39 weeks, I got excited because I started having contractions. I was like, oh, it's going to happen. This is it. I'm having contractions. Little did I know I was going to have contractions for weeks on end. That meant absolutely nothing.
It's just your body getting ready.
It was getting ready, but it was very misleading, I will say. Anyways, so 39 weeks comes and goes, 40 weeks, my due date. We went to a wedding on my due date of one of my college, she was never technically my roommate, but she lived right across from me, one of my college friends. And I wore that really tight black dress. Everyone at the wedding was like, what are you doing here? Like, I can't believe you're here. And then I danced all night and was really trying to dance that baby out.
That's right.
But
that's a good way to do it.
It was, but it didn't happen.
I got your mind off it for a little while.
For the night. Although I had contractions the whole ride home from that wedding, and I was super hopeful. And then I went to sleep, and
they stopped.
They stopped. Like, they did every single night. It was like I would have contractions all day. I mean, it was truly prodromal labor. It really was. So being a doula, I was doing the mile circuit, as much as I could, trying to make sure he was in a good position. But I was just so frustrated. Okay, so 40 weeks comes and goes, 41 weeks comes and goes, and here we are at the end of 41 weeks. And I remember we drove to the birth center, and you started your paternity leave because you knew how miserable I was, and you were trying to help me with Brinkley and just trying to be there for me. So we went to the birth center for like an NST and a cervical exam, which at that point I was having them sweep my membranes. That week, we did all the things. We did nipple stimulation. We did acupressure. We did
black and blue cohosh.
Black and blue cohosh under the supervision of the midwives. They're the ones who gave it to me, and they gave me the instructions on how to take it and how much and when and how often. And
we took that together.
Yes, I made you take it with me because it was so gross.
Yeah, it was awful. It was your way of helping yourself understand that I could go through something just as difficult as you did. That's a silly way of saying I'm empathizing with you, and you know it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
it is helpful.
You weren't going to go into labor, but I made you take some.
Sure. Yeah.
So you knew how I felt. Do you remember what movie we watched that night?
Oh, some old 3-hour.
I had to pick a long one.
Some lady.
My Fair Lady.
My Fair Lady. Oh.
The rain in Spain stays mainly. Anyways.
Yeah.
Good movie, but maybe not your best first experience. Anyways, we stayed up till like 1 a.m. that night and had contractions and then nothing. Went to bed and they were gone. I mean, and that was just like repeat. Okay, so we go for this hopefully last check. And they were like, well, you're having contractions. And I'm like, yeah, I know. But I couldn't even really feel the ones they were picking up. And I was like, I want you to sweep my membranes. I was prepared for the extreme discomfort that is getting your membrane swept. And instead she did it. And I was like, that wasn't bad. I was like, that barely felt like a cervical exam. She was like, that's because you are 90% effaced and 6 centimeters dilated. I was like,
Holy
what?
Cow. Not even in labor yet.
Not even in labor. I was 6 centimeters dilated, but nothing was happening. So on the way there, actually, I remember on the way to that appointment is when I finally gave up. I gave in. I finally surrendered, which is what I had to do in all of my births. The lesson that God has had to teach me over and over and over again, because I cannot get it through my head. Finally surrendered. And on the way to that appointment, I just remember being like, okay, God, fine. Whenever you want him to come, it's up to you. I'm going to stop trying now. I'm done trying. He'll come when he comes. I give up. And then he gave me a 6 centimeter head start, which was really nice. But of course they were like, well, go get ready. It's going to be we think it's going to be really soon. And I'm like, well, duh. I'm almost 42 weeks and I'm 6 centimeters dilated. It better be very soon. So we went home. Nothing ended up happening that night, of course. But I remember the next day we went out and got, I think, curtains to finish his nursery. And we went on a big walk at Country Park. And my contractions came back, of course, because it was daytime. I went to the grocery store, walked up and down every single aisle just to walk, and got stuff to make a cake, chocolate cake, which is so funny because chocolate cake is his very favorite cake now.
It's like baking therapy.
Yeah. Yes.
Baking therapy is very effective for you.
Well, I was going to make him a birthday cake.
That's so sweet.
I
remember that.
That's a project you can do in labor, make a cake. So that night, I was sitting on my birthing ball because that was the only comfortable place to sit. By the end, my belly was so big. I got maybe 3 tiny little minuscule stretch marks with Brinkley the day I went into labor. I had none until then. But with Milo, I mean, my belly was just covered in them. There was no preventing. It didn't matter how much oil or lotion went on my stomach. I had them all over me. Anyway, so I go to bed that night. I give up at 12:30 because I'd had contractions, all day and all evening. And at 12:30, I finally called it quits and was like, fine, I'm going to bed. Fine. And then they kept coming. For the first time at night.
Praise the Lord.
Praise Jesus. They finally kept coming. And so I was like, oh, yes, this is finally it. I mean, it was early labor, but it was finally happening. So I tried to get some sleep. I probably got 1 or 2 hours of sleep that night, but I was, kind of tossing and turning, and they weren't coming super. It was every 10 minutes or so. Sometimes they get down to 6 or 7 minutes apart, but just enough to wake me up before I could fall back asleep again. And then the next morning, I remember I called the birth center because I had an appointment scheduled because it was 42 weeks. Even though it was a Saturday, they wanted me to come in just, to do a heart rate check and all the things. And I was like, hey, I'm actually in labor for real. So do you not want me to come in, or should I just wait until labor advances? And they were like, no, go ahead and come in, because if your labor stops again, we want to make sure we have a record of the heart rate and all that. And I was like, okay, fine. But they were like, but bring your birth team with you and bring all your birth stuff just in case it happens while you're here. Because we lived an hour and 20 minutes away. So I was like, oh, okay. And that's when it got real. That's when I was like, oh my gosh, I'm packing my birth bag. It had been mostly packed, but just the last couple things. So my mom came over to be with Brinkley, and then we got in the car and drove to Statesville.
So I have one question before we move on.
Yes.
So from a physiological standpoint, I know we talked about surrender. We talked about praying and giving it to the Lord. My question is, physiologically, what do you think got you to 42 weeks?
his head. And I'll tell you exactly why. So we get to Statesville, and my contractions had kind of eased up from the adrenaline of knowing that things were finally happening, but probably like 2/3 of the way there, they picked up again, which was good. And when we got there, they did a cervical exam. They're like, oh, you're still 6 and 90. And I'm like, well, yeah, because that was like 2 days ago, so that's fine. And because we were the only ones there because it was Saturday, so it was just like us and the midwife. I said, can you please do an ultrasound real quick? Because I would like to see where this child's head is because I have had, this start-stop labor for weeks or days. And I was like, I just want to see where it is. And they were like, okay. So we went to the ultrasound room. They did the ultrasound and they're like, oh, well, that's why. They're like, his head hasn't engaged into your pelvis yet. It's still floating on top of your pelvis. And I was like, ugh. That's why, because we would later find out his head was huge and was having a hard time even getting into the pelvis in the first place. So that is why I think I didn't go, until 42 weeks. I mean, obviously, I don't really know if that's the reason. That's just sort of like my intuition of like, well, his head just would not engage into the pelvis because it couldn't, because it was so big. It couldn't figure out how to get in there. So they said, well, why don't you go take a walk, go to the mall. And I say that with quotation marks, go to the mall.
The Statesville Mall.
The Statesville Mall, which is...
the pride of North Carolina.
It's a big fat joke, but it was humble. So we went to the mall and we walked around and I was having contractions. And our friend was with us. I should mention that. It wasn't just Chris and I. Our friend was there. She was going to be our videographer. So she was going to take pictures and do video for us. So we were all three walking around and it was a couple weeks before Christmas. A couple weeks before Thanksgiving, but that meant all the Christmas stuff was out. So we were listening to Christmas music in the halls, which is kind of against us. We try not to do that till Thanksgiving, but when you're in the mall, you can't really help it. I remember smelling all the Bath and Body Works Christmas candles. Just trying, I don't know, your senses are so alive when you're in labor and you just want to experience more stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say that's kind of a dangerous move when you're that pregnant.
Well, in the nauseous phase, yes. And now that I know how toxic they are, yes. But at the time I was like, oh, Christmas candles, anyways. So we go back and I'm still a 6. And the nurse, who was actually a midwife in training, Jen, she was like, why don't you take a nap? She was like, you didn't get a lot of sleep last night. Maybe you just need to take a nap. And I mean, I'm like, that's really sweet. Cool. I can just take a nap here. They're like, yeah, sure. It was really nice. And this is 2016. So things have kind of changed and shifted a lot over the years there. But back in 2016, it was really awesome. And she was just take a nap. So I laid in that room, peanut ball in between my legs, heating pad on my belly, and you being Chris, were rubbing my back nicely, all the soft effleurage. And I probably only slept for 20 or 30 minutes, even though we were in there for an hour and a half, but it was so what I needed in that time, because then at the end of that nap, my contractions had gotten so intense that I had to get up and move around and I couldn't lay down anymore. And it was that nap is what really did it for me. Whether you are pregnant with your first baby or wanting to have a different birth experience for a subsequent delivery, this is the fully comprehensive Christian childbirth course for you, the Surrendered Birth Course. With over 10 years of experience as a childbirth educator, a birth doula, and having had 5 kids myself, almost 6, I have created a course fit for every mama out there who wishes to be fully informed on all things pregnancy, labor, birth, postpartum, and breastfeeding, while remembering to keep Jesus at the center of it all. Our God created a beautiful design for birth, something to look forward to, and not something to be feared. Not only will this course get you prepared for your birth, but it will also get you excited for it. It will answer questions you never knew you had and teach you things you didn't realize were so incredibly valuable and central to the entire birthing process. I've had numerous couples on their second, third, or even fourth babies who've taken this course and said how incredibly glad they were and that they learned so much more than they ever thought they would. With over 12 hours of video content, 5 modules, numerous lessons, detailed PDF printout notes, and endless resources, we dive deep into pregnancy, labor, the risks and benefits of interventions, inductions, immediate and extended postpartum for both mom and baby, everything you need to know about breastfeeding, and basic newborn care. This course covers everything. Once you've taken the course, I am available to you for any questions you might have during a monthly live Q&A Zoom call exclusive to our online course audience, as well as through email. The course is on demand, so as soon as you purchase it, you'll be able to start right away and re-watch any lessons as many times as you need. Whether you are planning a medicated hospital birth or an unmedicated birth at a birth center or home birth, this course will prepare you in every way that you can be prepared. While I understand the desire to take a specific hospital or home birth course catered to your specific birth plans, birth doesn't always go how we plan. And having the knowledge of how birth can go in other environments outside of our plans is essential. Most importantly, I will help you to surrender these plans to God. And in return, the Holy Spirit will provide you with the peace that only He can give. For more information on the course, to read testimonials of others who have taken it, or to sign up for the course, just click the link in the show notes. And lastly, remember, just like we say here every week on the podcast, learn all that you can, make the best plans, and then leave it in God's hands. So then, surprise, surprise, Jen was like, okay, great. Because now I'm like having to stop through contractions. And like, this is when I really feel like active labor started. And it was probably like just before noon. It was right around like 11:45 or noon. And I feel like, okay, I'm finally in active labor now. So she was like, go get some lunch. Like, go out, go get yourself something to eat. And then, come back later. And I was like, okay. Because, at the hospital, it's like you get there and they don't ever let you leave until there's a baby. And they don't let you eat. So this was just so counter to that. It was awesome.
It was refreshing in a lot of ways.
It was refreshing. So we go
to Ruby Tuesday.
We went to Ruby Tuesdays to get the salad bar because you guys were like, I don't want anything greasy. So like we went to the salad bar. And I actually didn't really want any food. I was nibbling on multigrain scoops and purple Gatorade. That's what I was wanting. I don't know why, that's just what I wanted. But y'all ate the salad bar, and I remember walking around Ruby Tuesdays and just like leaning over tables to have contractions.
You couldn't sit still.
I couldn't sit.
When you were there.
I could not sit down. And the look on their faces when they found out I was in labor and that you guys were just having lunch and I was just walking around. They were like, why aren't you at the hospital? And I'm like, yeah, it's fine. We're not doing it that way. Anyways, but things really started to pick up there. And I remember like, okay, we need to go back just because I don't want to be here anymore. I want to be there. So we went back, but we didn't go inside. We went right behind that birth center. There's like a little tiny farm with some horses. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do remember the horse farm. It was really cool because you could just look out the back and there was a gazebo on the birth center property. Mm-hmm. And there were just a bunch of horses behind this line of trees. And it was just kind of almost serene in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Well, and it was like a perfect fall day. It was like 55 and sunny. Because I started out in like that hoodie. I ended up taking it off and just having like a tank top on outside, like the 55-degree weather. But it felt so good. Like the air was just crisp and like the skies were blue. And it was just a really pretty day. I mean, we labored there in the parking lot and by the horses and along that little trail there. I don't remember if like I wanted to go inside or they wanted me to come inside. Like I honestly don't remember, but I just remember that when we started walking to go inside, I was like, this is it. Like, I'm not coming out again without a baby. This is it. Which was like all sorts of emotional. So we go inside and I had them check me, or they checked me again, and I was still a 6 with 90%. So like technically I hadn't made any cervical change, but I knew as like a doula that didn't really mean anything and I could progress, really quickly or something. And here was my one major regret of this labor. I did not have a doula there with me. I had initially planned on having one. Then the one that I wanted couldn't come anymore. And so I didn't want anybody else. And so I didn't have one. But I just thought, I'm a doula. And all these midwives are doulas, or they've been trained as doulas. And so I'm like, yeah, we'll be fine. And I was fine, but I think I needed somebody there who knew me really, really well, but also knew birth really, really well. Like kind of that combination to help me like make the right decisions.
Yeah, I was only one half of that equation.
Yeah, you knew me really, really well.
Especially at this point, yes.
So I had them break my water, and that was my choice. Because I knew where his head was, I knew it was in a good position, I knew that it would most likely definitely speed up the labor and not slow it down, and that was a mistake. My mistake that I made that I fully regret. So I remember the midwife, she was so sweet. She was actually the student midwife, Rebecca, and she's the one who did it. And I was laying on the bed, and I will never forget the first contraction I had after my water was broken. I shot up in that bed, and I was like squeezing her, and I think you were squeezing my other hand, and I was like, put it back, put it back, put it back, like put my water back. I want it back, because that cushion was gone, and like it immediately put me in transition. It was like instant, and I was not ready for it. Honestly, I'm not bragging, but I was so in control up until that point. I felt like I could do this for several more hours. Like, I've got this. But then after my water was broken, I was like, this is terrible. Like, I want to be done right now. And I was not done. So they were like, okay, well, we'll start filling up the tub. And I'm like, yes, please start filling up the tub. And then we got in the shower. I remember I got in the shower to try and like run hot water on my back. Oh, because as soon as she broke my water, I instantly had back labor. I think just because his head dropped so low that I instantly had back labor. And I mean, I didn't have any back labor with Brinkley's labor. So this was a new sensation for me, and I did not like it. But we were in the shower. I remember, I don't think you were ready to see me like that. And you, my husband, who never cries, started crying. And I was like, oh God, okay, well, if he's crying, I guess I can cry. So we were just holding each other in the shower while I was crying. And you were crying, we were crying, and the water was running. It was quite an emotional.
Yeah, that was a really difficult moment for me, just watching you go through that, because I saw the desperation in your eyes and in your tone and in your body language. And it was very difficult to see, because you don't like somebody that you love to go through something so difficult. And the fact that you basically went from, not 0 to 60, but you went from
fine to not fine.
Yeah, you were noticeably more affected in a moment.
Yes.
Yeah, it was difficult, but also at the same time, it was, as a support person, specifically being the spouse, it was really good for me to learn how to support you emotionally through my emotions even. That was a very new experience for me as well.
I decided to go ahead and get in the tub, which I later regretted. I feel like I should have stayed in the shower a little longer with you and just kind of let gravity do its thing for a little longer. Because once I got in the tub, I was like basically hands and knees most of the time. But I was so desperate to get in that tub. And it did really feel good. Like getting in the tub felt, because I, didn't have any of that with my first labor. So this felt very relieving, very relaxing. It definitely did not take any sort of pain away, but it took some of the pressure away. And it was just like a serene, relaxing environment to be in, which I really needed in that time, but it was still so intense. And I remember you were like holding me on the front while I was leaning over the tub. Nicole, one of the midwives, was like giving me counter pressure, and Jen was like squeezing my hips. And I mean, every single contraction, because it was so intense. And if for like a moment, I started having contraction, I would yell, back, back. And just meaning like, everyone get your hands on my back because that's where I need them. And bless their hearts, like they're not required to do that, but they were in there with me like the whole time. And I needed it. I really needed like all of their support. So I was in the tub for a couple of hours, just going through transition, just wanting to crawl out of my own body. Like I was not mentally prepared for a natural transition. I think I had mentally prepared for like a natural active labor, but not for like a natural transition, and not with a giant baby either, because it's definitely, in my opinion, a different sensation.
I do recall you literally trying to back out of your body at one point.
I did. I was. And I've seen other moms do that in labor. And Rebecca, the student midwife, she saw what I was doing. She knew exactly what I was trying to do. And she came over and she whispered in my ear and she said, I know what you're trying to do, but you can't get out of this. You're the only one who can go through this, and you have to go through. And I was like, I know you're right. I also remember thinking while I was in the tub, I'm like, okay, if I get out of the tub and we get in the car and we drive to the hospital and we get in there and I register and I get in a room and I get admitted and they do all my blood work and they give me an epidural, this could all be over. And then I just remember thinking, there's no way I'll make it. Like, I know that I'm too close to the end. I'll never make it. But like, I was fantasizing about that in my head. I had run a half marathon the year before, which if you know me at all, like I was not a runner. I was a dancer my whole life, but not a runner. And so when I ran that half marathon, to me, that was the hardest physical feat I had ever done until this labor. And while I was in the tub, I was like, I'd rather be running a half marathon right now. Anything, just let me run that half marathon. I'll just get out of this tub and I'll run the half marathon. Just take the contractions away. It was just so intense. But pretty soon I started feeling pushy, not like super pushy, just like some pressure. And they were like, well, let's check you to make sure. And I was like 9.5. I had like the lip of cervix left. And they were like, well, we'll just try and push it out of the way if you want to push. And that I was not ready for at all. So they tried to push it out of the way, and I screamed, like a high-pitched scream. And Chris, that's when you ran out of the room.
I could not handle that.
You couldn't handle it.
Oh, man. Just as a person who lives in other people's emotions when you're with them, it was just very difficult to see you in that situation.
Oh, if it helps you feel any better, I had no idea you left the room because I was in labor land, like in my own zone, so I didn't know you were even gone.
I mean, I give props to the staff there at the birth center. They were
incredible.
They really were.
So that didn't work, but they were like, we're going to need you to get out of the tub. And I was like, I believe I just said no. Like, no, I'm not doing that. And then like within the next couple contractions, they like lifted me up out of the tub and got me on the bed. I think they knew this was a big baby and it was going to take a lot of work to get out. And I had like zero leverage in the tub. So we got on the bed and they finally pushed that lip of cervix back and I started pushing. But I really did not feel the urge to push. I think it was more so that I just wanted it to be over. So I started pushing, and they were telling me to push, but I really didn't feel the urge. I really didn't. Not for a long, long time. Because, of course, they're like, oh, second babies, you should be able to push them out faster than your first baby. It's so much easier. Well, I pushed my first baby out with an epidural on my back in 40 minutes. So I'm like, this should be cake. I should be able to do this in like 20 at, max. But that was not the case. This was a big boy, and definitely the size of the head affects how much pushing you're going to do. I also didn't wait for that fetal ejection reflex. I didn't even know what that was back then. I don't know, maybe I'd learned it and forgotten it, but I was just pushing. And
even if you had learned it, it would be hard to apply it in such an intense moment.
Yeah, it was very intense. So, and I had not pushed with a natural labor before. I'd only ever pushed with an epidural. So I was like not ready for that sensation because I was like, why is it so like pinchy? And like, they were like, you just have to push through that. And I was like, oh gosh, this sucks. Like, but I did it anyways. And we were doing all sorts of positions. We were like on my back, and then we were like doing my side. We were doing hands and knees. Like we were flipping all around. But finally I got to where he was crowning, and I felt like the burning and like the ring of fire, and which I really did feel. And that's when I finally was like, okay, I have the urge to push now. Okay, I am ready to push. Now, even though I'd been pushing for like 45 minutes, 50 minutes, I was like, I'm ready. So start pushing, get his head out. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is it. I'm about to have my baby. His head is out. And the next contraction comes, and I pushed as hard as I possibly could, and he didn't even budge. Like not even a little bit. He was completely stuck. And thankfully, going through doula training and having been at a birth already where I saw a shoulder dystocia, I knew exactly what was happening. I was like, okay, he's stuck. This is the shoulder dystocia. And in my head, I just flipped onto my hands and knees, and I knew that's what they were going to tell me to do anyways. But so we did it, flipped onto my hands and knees, and I had, all sorts of hands up in my area. They were like, there were 3 of them there, which was great. One was a midwife, one was a midwife in training, and one was a student midwife. So like they were all in it. One was like pulling, one had her hands like opening me. I was pushing, and I remember being on my hands and knees being like, he's going to come out with a broken collarbone, but it's okay because he's going to be alive and it's going to be fine. I don't even care. We're just pushing this baby out. It's going to be all right, which that didn't happen. He did not break anything, which was good. But this was a few minutes. It was not like 30 seconds or a minute. I look back to the video and I'm pretty sure it was closer to like 4 minutes, maybe 3.5, which it just feels like an eternity when you just have a giant head hanging out of you. But anyways, we were flipping back and forth. They were pulling, I was pushing. We were doing everything we could. And finally we got his shoulder, at least one shoulder out and the other shoulder out. And he was a big boy.
Oh man.
And he came out, and I was so relieved, like so utterly relieved, more relieved than I'd ever been in my life, that the fact that he wasn't on my chest and he wasn't crying didn't bother me at all. I had like complete peace in that moment. And I knew he wasn't breathing, but I knew like they got this. And I think just the Holy Spirit just gave me supernatural peace in that moment where I was just like so content to just lay there and breathe. And I was like, oh, this is amazing. Like he's out of me and it's over and I'm done. And so even though, again, like they were giving him oxygen and helping to resuscitate him, which I think totally freaked Chris out, but
I was going to say my experience in that moment was complete opposite because I was seeing him stuck
blue,
and
limp.
blue.
Yeah.
It was just, it was unsettling to see even the scramble to get him out and whatnot. I was nervous for him.
But you had only been at one other birth before that.
Right.
So
right.
So your concept of normal was very limited. So I knew everything would be fine. And so I was just relieved. But finally, he starts crying and they put him on my chest. And I believe my first words, like if I need to go back and watch the video, which is on a hard drive somewhere because it was 2016 and it was not on an iPhone, but I think I said this massive child because he was massive. Like they put him on me and his toes were touching my downstairs area and his head was like butted up against my chin. Like he was just this long, giant baby. And all of them guessed, like they started guessing weights and they all guessed over 11 pounds. And I was like, what? No way. And they're like, oh yeah, I'm guessing 11.4. I'm guessing 11.7. And I was just like, what? Because Brinkley was 7. And I was like, there's no way. But when they finally did weigh him, he was 10 pounds, 12 ounces. And they were all like, oh, well, it's just because he pooped everywhere on his way out. And so much poop came out of him. They were like, if he hadn't pooped, he surely would have been like 11 pounds. So thank God for the poop, I guess.
Yeah, I remember looking at him when he came out. And my first thought was like, he's really long.
Yeah.
And he's really wide and his head's really big. Like, he's just a big boy.
He was. So his head was 15 and a half inches around, which is huge.
So,
okay?
So what's the average then?
I guess I don't know what like the 50th percentile, but that was like off the charts. Like 99th plus percentile was his head. But like Brinkley's head was 13, and they said she had a decent sized head. Like I've been at births where the head's only 12. And so I was just like, holy moly, 15 and a half. And then he was like 23 and a half inches long. Oh, he wasn't quite 24 inches long, but he probably was by the next day. Like he grew so fast. He never lost any weight. He only gained, and he gained fast. He was 15 pounds by his 1 month appointment. 15. To put this in perspective, Brinkley was 16 pounds at her first birthday. Okay? And Milo was 15 pounds at his 1 month appointment.
Right.
So he was a big boy. But it was so nice to have him out. And it was also just, it was really nice just being at the birth center because they were just like pampering me and helping me. But then they also gave us like time to ourselves where it was just us. And, whenever it was time for me to like go to the bathroom and get all cleaned up, they like were walking with me and talking with me. And then we only had to stay for like 4 hours. And then we got to go home. And I got to sleep I slept on the couch because I didn't want to walk upstairs. But we got to sleep on the couch. I just had him on my chest all night. Nobody was coming in at all hours of the night. It was just like, this is what's really funny. I don't know if you remember this.
I know exactly what you're about to say.
Okay. When we got home from the birth center, it was probably like, okay, so time perspective. Active labor started around 12. They broke my water around 3, and he was born at 6:14 p.m. Okay. So we left there a little after 10. We stopped and got some food on the way home. We probably got home around midnight. We get home. I get set up on the couch with Milo, and Chris says, I'm just going to go upstairs and take a shower, and then I'll be right back. We're like, okay, see you in a minute. Chris goes upstairs, and 5.5 hours later comes downstairs. Thank God my mom was there, so she stayed up with me on the couch, but we were just laughing because we knew you laid down and fell asleep, and I just thought it was really funny.
Just so I can save face a little bit, I don't remember how that happened.
I think you laid down, and that's what happened.
Yes, that's probably true.
Yeah.
It was probably a very relieving feeling to lay down after that, but it's funny because your experience was incrementally more intense than mine, and I was exhausted, It's just really...
I don't know if I even slept that night. I think I had the birth high.
You were on adrenaline. And
I was like on a high, and so I don't even know if I slept, but but when you came down at like 5:30 in the morning, I don't even think you had showered. I sent you to go get breakfast. I was like, okay, well, good morning. Please go get some breakfast. Oh, we got Rise. They had the best breakfast sandwiches.
Chicken biscuits.
I think I got like a sausage, egg, and cheese. I don't know. It was so good. It was delicious.
And they had funky donuts.
Oh, yeah. They had all the weird donuts. We don't have Rise here anymore. They went out of business in our location. They still have other locations, but sadness. They're not in Greensboro anymore.
I need to just put this plug in there because after seeing you go through that experience, like as a pregnant person, as someone who's laboring, as someone who pushed out a baby, you are a superwoman. Like you are.
I am superwoman.
I mean, the fact that you did all of that, and I think that the fact that women, especially those who choose to labor naturally, they're just rock stars. But being able to see you go through all of the difficulty and the hard things, to see on the other side this beautiful child, it's just it was really rewarding to see you go through that experience, even though it was really hard.
It was really hard.
And so props to you for going through everything that you went through and to choose that this is what you wanted to do and this is the way you wanted to do it. And even though you didn't have much of a choice,
I knew all the benefits.
at some point, I mean, you didn't have any choices anymore.
Right.
But you faced it head on, and here we are. We have this awesome boy because of it.
Honestly, I'm pretty sure I said that night, like, if I ever have another baby, I'm getting an epidural. But I did not. I had 2 more natural births after that. But so it just goes to show, like, even though it was really hard, I still chose it again and again and again. And, you know, those stories we'll tell, and my births only got better, honestly, which was awesome. So my postpartum with Brinkley was just like, oh, what is it like to be a mom? And how do I do this? And how does she sleep? And how do I feed her? And it was all the like figuring it out. And, you know, being like sleep deprived for the first time and just feeling that genuinely the sleep deprivation. I had never really felt that in my life until then. And just how do I do this? But, you know, eventually you figure it out, you get the hang of it, and everything was great. I felt, you know, great with my postpartum with her. Tired, but great. She was not a sleeper. She was not like the sleep 20 hours a day newborn. She was like I have FOMO and I'm here for whatever's happening and my eyes are open and I would like to see what's going on. And she has been like that since she was born, and she is like that to this day. She cannot stand to miss out on anything. Milo, on the other hand, so my postpartum with him, it was a lot more difficult, but not because of him. So for me, I felt like I had the newborn thing down. I was nursing him. We were sideline nursing from like day 2. And so I was getting more sleep at night.
He also had a lot of really good muscle tone. And so he could handle some of the big boy stuff. And also just because of his size. It seemed.
Yeah. Well, and he was more developed. Like he was 42 weeks. Brinkley was 39. So she took, you know, a little longer to learn some of that stuff. But I had nursed before. So like, you know, it wasn't him. But it was honestly the balancing act of now having him and a toddler that I was not prepared for. And I did not do well with that. And my very first day alone with both of them, when Chris had gone back to work and my mom had gone back to work, and like I didn't have any help anymore. It was 3 weeks old. And I brainstormed all day about how I could go back to work. I was like, I want to go back to work. Somebody else come and do this for me. I don't want to be here anymore. I felt, if you follow the Enneagram, I know some people think it's of the devil. I'm not here to debate that. I'm just saying that I'm a 7 and I wanted to be out. Okay. I wanted to get out. I wanted to go do stuff, but I felt so trapped. It was like having the newborn who ate every hour and a half and having the toddler who was about to be 3 and really entering like her 3-nature-ness. That was a balancing act. There was nobody to like help or entertain. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like I will never, ever pee alone ever again. I still feel like that though.
Yeah, I don't pee alone either. It's okay.
Yeah. I had some heart-to-heart times with Jesus during that time. Also just saying like, Lord, why did you make it so much harder than I prayed for? Why was it so much more painful than I prayed for? Why was he so much bigger than I prayed for? Why did he come so much later? You know, I had a lot of questions. It was those first 2 months. I was just really like, I wasn't depressed. I didn't have postpartum depression. I was just like, gosh, this is hard. And gosh, Lord, why didn't you do that? But thankfully in January, so he was born in mid-November. And then in January, we had our 21 days of prayer and fasting at the church. And I really feel like that helped me come out of that and increased my faith and got me like kind of back on track. And by that point, he was, 2.5 months and I was just in a better place, which was good, really good and necessary.
Moral of the story, my wife is a beast. And even though stuff can be really hard in pregnancy and labor and delivery can be really hard, it's worth the outcome.
It was. I would do it again for you, Milo. I wouldn't like it, but I would do it again. I will say, I've done this 4 times now, and his was my most difficult. But I would do it again because he's awesome. We love Milo.
We love Milo.
We love Milo. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. You can reach me at Surrendered Birth Services on Instagram or email me at contact@surrenderedbirthservices.com. Be sure not to miss an episode by hitting the follow button. Also, we'd love for you to leave a written review of the show so that more people's births and lives can be changed by the love of Jesus and the empowerment of accurate birth education. If you really enjoyed this episode in particular, please take a screenshot of it and post it to your Instagram story, tagging Surrendered Birth Services. If you would like to be a guest on the Surrendered Birth Stories podcast, please click the link in the episode show notes to fill out your interest form. Also, if you're interested in taking my childbirth classes, birth consultations, or having me as your birth doula, please click on the link in the show notes to take you to my website for online and in-person options. Just as a reminder, this show is not giving medical advice, so please continue to see your personal care provider as needs arise. We hope you have a great week. And remember, learn all that you can, make the best plans, and then leave it in God's hands.